What is up, YouTube? It is Lori back with another video, back with another blunt, and it actually is a berry fusion this time. And as you guys read the title, it's gonna be a pretty juicy story time today, and I'm in a pretty good headspace to talk about this now, because whenever I tried to tell this story before, it would like fluster me and I would make the video way too long. I don't like making my videos that long. But grab your blunts, your bowls, your bongs, joints, spliffs, doobies, whatever you want to call it, and get lit with me, you guys. I hope you guys get high because it's going to be a juicy story. So, cheers. But, yeah. This did happen very recently, so in the last couple of weeks, so it's still very fresh on my mind. But like I said, every time I tried to tell it before, I would get flustered. All right. Had to get that one hit. So let's just jump right into it. This story basically, it starts the week that I went back to work. And I went back to work May 4th. So this now happened, like it started like 2 weeks ago. This basically happened like 2 weeks ago. So the week that I went back to work, there are only 5 people that work in my office, mind you. And I don't really give a fuck about the girl's name, so I'm going to tell, so I really don't care about that. But my guy coworker, I am going to keep his name private in all of this. So May 4th, I went back to work. And during that week, my guy coworker, he did not come to work one day because he was having some car troubles. So it was just me and my other 3 coworkers, Brandy, Karima, and Rebecca. Rebecca is my manager, remember that, and Karima and Rebecca are both just 2 coworkers on my level. And we basically had like a girls' day because my guy coworker wasn't there, so we all were able to just kind of sit and talk and, you know, talk about things that we probably didn't want to talk about in front of my guy coworker. It was a judgment-free zone. So then the next day, my coworker Brandy, she comes up to me and tells me that she believes that Karima, our other coworker, stole her card and took like, well, not stole her card, but her card numbers and took $700 to $1,000 off of her card. And I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, wow, that's crazy. And this is as soon as I headed into work. So I get into work. We're supposed to be sitting down and logged in at 8 o'clock. At like 8:10, 8:15, she told me this. So when she tells me this, our manager, Rebecca, she comes up to us and like, what is you guys whispering about? And Brandy tells her that she told me about, you know, the situation. And, you know, Rebecca was like, Brandy, you were supposed to keep your mouth shut. Like, why did you say anything? You know, yada, yada, yada. So I'm just like, you know, whatever. I go back to my desk because that's not really anything that has to do with me because, you know, she wasn't supposed to tell me. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go back to work. So then about 20 minutes after that, my manager comes up to me. And she shows me video footage and photos of what looked like Karima taking down Brandy's card numbers or like on her phone while Brandy is making a payment over the phone at work. And for a specific amount of time too, Brandy had her card out on the desk. And it'd be real easy for anyone to just kind of, you know, pass by and see that. And at one point she actually had it stuck in the keyboard, so it was like up. So all you had to do was walk back and forth. So then she shows me that, and I'm still just like, you know, wow, that's crazy, but like not really trying to say much because, you know, I'm not really, this is not my situation to, you know, be putting my opinion in. So then also that day, not Karima, but my manager, Rebecca, has a meeting about how we're not supposed to bring our personal items into work anymore, meaning our purses and our wallets, and that we're not allowed to have phones or else she's going to get us sent home. But the way my manager was, you could kind of tell when she was talking at someone. So Karima was like, why? You know, getting an attitude. And Rebecca was like, because I said so. Then a little bit after that, Rebecca says that she is moving Brandy and Karima's desks. And that just makes Karima so fucking angry. So she starts cussing out Rebecca, and she ends up leaving. And then Rebecca left probably like 5 minutes after that. And, you know, me and my other coworkers were kind of just like, you know, what the hell is going on? And, you know, Brandy comes in there and she's just like, you know, she shouldn't be reacting like that because, you know, she's the one in the wrong, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you know, this is crazy, you know, hopefully they come back and everything's fine, whatever. They end up coming back. By the end of the day, everything was pretty much cool. So then the next day after that, this is now Friday, so we had our girls' day on Tuesday, or Wednesday, and then, you know, all that stuff happened on Thursday, and then Friday comes along, And Rebecca has this meeting in the morning, and she's like, is there anything that we need to address, anything that anyone needs to say to each other, concerning yesterday, because a lot went down. And, all of us are kind of just like, no. I'm kind of sitting there just like, no, because, what did I do? So Karima then takes it upon herself to kind of at me in a way, and she's basically like, I just find it funny that she thought there was going to be a whole show, and I just find it extremely childish that she blah 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 blah, and she's talking about me. So I kind of sit up and I'm just like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Why are you addressing me? I haven't done anything. During the meeting, my manager was like, no one should be standing on chairs or doing any of that. I was the only one who stood up on a chair because we all work in cubicles. So when Karima started yelling, I stood up on my chair and looked at my guy coworker and was like, hey, do you hear that? Where's that the TV? He was like, no, I hear that. And I sat back down. I took responsibility for it, whatever. Was it childish? Yes. Was it right or wrong? Yes and no, no and yes to both of those, because honestly, it really wasn't relevant, and it didn't really matter, especially when it came to Karima freaking out and cussing out our manager. That's not even on the same level. So I got kind of heated, but I ended up walking out of there because I didn't want to be on camera yelling and screaming at work. So I ended up walking outside in the middle of the conversation to get a breather. The rest of the day passes. Me and Karima were basically cool. I still didn't understand why she came at me or why she was even addressing me, but by the end of the day, we were mostly cool. The weekend comes and goes. So now the next week comes. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are all fine. Everything's cool. Thursday comes, and I come into work, and Rebecca calls me and Brandy and my guy coworker in, and she's like, Karima's not working here anymore. She's fired. And I'm kind of like, what the heck? Brandy's like, what the heck? My guy coworker is like, what the heck is going on? Because everything was fine. Everything was cool. All the tension, we dropped the beef, whatever the beef was, and, all the tension had died down. We had went through most of the week fine. So we were all kind of just like, what's the problem? Why is she fired? And she tells us she couldn't tell us, but if for some reason she had to leave during the day, that we had to call the cops on her. And we're all kind of like, what? Now we're like, oh my gosh, this is serious. What's going on? So she's like, well, one of you has to do it. So I said okay, but I had no intention of calling the cops. I was just saying, okay, yeah, okay, something of that in that matter will go down, meaning more I'll text you and you can do it because you're the manager. So then right when that happens, the owner of our building shows up, and she's like, I have to go take him somewhere. Rebecca says, I have to go take him somewhere. And we're like, okay. And right after she leaves, not even 5 minutes after she goes, Karima shows up, and she actually pulls Brandy outside, and they were talking. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I'm talking to my guy coworker. I'm like, what is Brandy doing? We had specific instructions to sit here, not engage in conversation. And, I texted my manager because that's what she said to do if, Karima was to show up, to text her. And I'm like, hey, she's here. I'm not really going to call the cops, so whatever. So then I didn't get a text back, and then Karima comes inside and comes up to me and confronts me and is like, before I cussed her out, and she's talking about Brandy, she's like, did you say that you thought I stole her card and took her money because I'm a convicted felon? And I kind of turned around because first of all, I'm the youngest in the office, but that doesn't mean I'm going to let anybody talk to me any type of way and everybody else is having conflict. I haven't done anything. So I turned to her and I'm like, listen, Karima, Brandy was the one that initially told me that you were the one that she suspected you to be the one that took her money. She was the one that told me that initially, first off. Then Rebecca actually came to me and showed me video footage and photos of what looked like you possibly taking down her numbers while she was making a payment over the phone. Now, if I formed an opinion against you, that's my opinion. But I never said anything to you or to anybody else, so I don't understand where you're coming from, and I also don't understand why you approached me so harshly the next day, after whatever happened between you and Rebecca and moving the desk and blah, blah, blah. She tells me, Karima says, that my manager, Rebecca, told her that I specifically was talking shit about her, quote unquote. That's what my coworker said about our manager. And now I'm kind of just like, what the fuck is going on? Because I'm like, no, I never said anything like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, well, she said that you guys were whispering about it. And I'm like, when? And she was like, that morning. of, you know, the moving of the desks and me freaking out or whatever. And I was like, that is because Brandy came to me and told me the situation initially, because I did not know before. I wasn't a part of that, so how could I know? But if I was to form my own opinion against you, that's but I didn't say anything about you. And she was like, well, Rebecca said you did. I was like, I did not. So then she was like, you know, let's go outside, let's talk about it. And because I'm now heated at this point, and Brandy was actually on the phone with Rebecca, and, you know, Rebecca was supposed to be calling the cops. So we go outside, and Karima proceeds to tell me and Brandy that Rebecca had been talking shit about all of us. She said that Brandy was stupid and lazy and ditzy, and that she couldn't get her numbers up, and it was hard for her to, you know, get a hold of the script and being able to talk to people on the phone, because I worked at a call center. And I was just kind of like, you know, first of all, that's fucked up. But I knew that's what Rebecca thought about her, because Rebecca was the type of person, my manager was, to talk about people. She would just talk badly about everybody. People would come in an interview and she would talk shit about them in the next room. So it was kind of just like that. I knew she said that stuff about her. I knew she already thought that about her. I never added my opinion, because one, that's rude as fuck, and two, I'm not going to have someone throw that back in my face. And what happened here was I really was trying to keep to myself, and someone was deliberately spreading lies. It was my manager. So now I'm just like, what is going on? Then she tells me what my manager said about me, and she said that Brandy and my guy coworker were my puppets. Me and Brandy were in cahoots, which I did not understand, because what and who could we be in cahoots against? I am there to work. I am there to get work done. And this does come into play. I was one of the best workers at this place. I had some of the best numbers. Me and Karima both did. And Brandy and Oren were new when they both came to work for this company. So they did not have as many numbers, and they were basically still in training when COVID hit, and we all had to, you know, quarantine. My butt went out. But she said that we were in cahoots, and I'm just like, what do you mean? Because I'm here to work. Then she said that I was cheating on my boyfriend with Oren, because me and him had gone off on break together. Now, I don't have to explain myself to anybody, but I had talked about my boyfriend so much at this place, at this company, like about how much I loved him, how much I cared about him. I had shown them pictures of him. Like, I just couldn't understand how they could be saying something like that. Now, Oren also was a huge stoner, and there were cameras all over this place. So sometimes when he would go on break, he would let me hit his pen or whatever, but he didn't want to do it in the parking lot, and that's totally understandable. I didn't either, so we would leave and just, you know, kind of drive around. And 98% of those times, 99% of those times, Brandy was with us. So I didn't understand what the fuck she was saying then either, and now I'm like, I'm just like, I'm starting to see all this. I'm just baffled. Then she says that the entire plan, the entire time, was that to get me to quit the job, was to get Oren and Brandy's numbers. Oops, I didn't mean to say my guy coworker's name, but was to get their numbers high enough that they would surpass mine and I would quit, because apparently Rebecca had to make a decision by like Friday of this week that I'm talking about to fire someone. And I obviously did not know that, but Karima did. Now, Karima and Rebecca were like this, and I knew that from the start. I knew that I could never say anything about Karima or Rebecca to either of them, because they would relay it to each other. They were always on the phone with each other, always texting. Like, anything that I said to Karima when Rebecca would leave early or she would go, whatever, whenever she had to leave the office, it would always get back to her. And it never be bad stuff, but if I had like specific questions or things that I wanted to talk about, somehow she already knew about it, like the next day. So she said that, and that really, that just really got me. So like now I'm like on the verge of tears. I'm like freaking out, because I'm like, what the fuck? This is all just like this big orchestrated like web of lies, and my manager is doing all of this. And why? Like, I'm a good worker. Why would you want to get rid of me? I have good numbers. Like, if you had to make a decision about firing someone, it would make more sense to be someone that hasn't been there longer, not knowing how to do it, still in training. It just didn't really make sense to me. And honestly, when we were having all of these meetings, because it did come up that Karima did not take Brandy's money, Rebecca did have a meeting with all of us, me and Karima and Brandy, because I was somehow now involved, because Brandy told me about this, that we shouldn't be whispering, saying shit like that, and spreading stuff. I'm just like, I'm not spreading anything, but that just really hurt. And when she told us that, Rebecca finally then pulled up, and she tried to have some bullshit meeting with me and Brandy about like discussing like what happened. She was like, is there anything we need to address? She was like, Lori, what's wrong with you? You look like you're damn near on the verge of tears. And I'm like, I am, because I just found out you're talking all this shit about me. I did not say that, but I was just like, no, as long as I am wanted and needed here, I want to go to work. And that's all I kept saying. I wouldn't even look her in the eye. And she was like, well, Lori, I did hear something on the phone while I was on the phone with Brandy. And by the way, the cops did come, and she was like, I just want to let you know that there are two sides to every story. Actually, there are three. So now that lets me know that Brandy is also saying something too. And when I looked at her, she couldn't even look at me in the eye. And I'm just like, okay, what the hell is going on? Like, I am so done. Then about 10 minutes later, she was like, unfortunately, after everything, I'm gonna have to let you go. And she fired me. And I ended up getting a lift, and I was so upset because literally the day before my car had broke down. And that was another thing she said about me. I had disclosed to them that I was an exotic dancer at one point and that I was dancing, and she was like, how could she be a stripper and she's driving a broken down 1998 Honda Civic, blah, 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 blah. And these are women I thought I could trust. These are women that I thought I could disclose information to. So now I'm just like, what the fuck? And when me and Karima and Brandy were out there, she's like, I'm going to send you guys screenshots of all this. Because I wasn't just taking this, taking her word for this. I was seeing text messages of all of this. Everything that my manager was saying about me. The number was correct, everything. So I'm heated, I'm crying, I'm, on the phone with my mom. Now, this is just like a couple weeks ago. And, so she fired me. And come to find out, Karima was actually not fired. It was all for show, and she told everybody in the office not to say anything to me. And I actually go pick up my check on Tuesday. So I have a few choice words for my manager, but they all lied to me. They all, I was really upset because I thought I was really close to Brandy, and I thought that was somebody that I could disclose myself to, talk to. And that was just a lesson learned for me, not to be such an open book. The whole point of this story, you guys, is just to not be so trusting with everybody, especially your coworkers, because they're not your friends, and they're also not the people that they seem to be when they're at work. They're completely different when they're whatever, but they decided to show themselves like this at work. So this was literally just a whole elaborate scheme to get me fired. And I've never had anything like this happen to me before. I've never had anyone do this to me before with such unprofessionalism. If there was supposed to be clientele change and you figured for some dumbass reason to let me go, because I'm not gonna lie, I was a very good worker. I had very good numbers. I had a lot of sign-ups. I did what the fuck I was supposed to do. If for some reason you felt that you had to let me go, couldn't you have said that in such a different, quick way? You could have explained it to me, or not explained to me, not giving me reason, but in a different way than making up this entire scheme, this entire plan. I don't know if Brandy stealing Karima's car was a part of the plan, but that seemed to be part of it because Karima ended up cussing out Brandy too at a couple. It was just a whole bunch of shit, and I honestly tried to keep myself out of it. My guy coworker is the only person in this story who has really nothing to do with this. He was just like a fly on the wall, and he actually hit me up afterwards and was like, are you okay? I feel like this was so unfair that they did this to you, blah, blah, blah. But I am okay now because honestly, if that's the way things were gonna go down, and honestly, there was a lot of things that I felt were shady about this place before, it was my coworkers fucking me over. There was a lot of things that were wrong with this place, and I'll probably mention that in a different video, but it really taught me, I have to be careful. I really have to be careful. Everybody has to be careful with being such an open book, and that is something that I'm saying towards myself 100%, because I am someone who likes to just get in front of people and talk and just be like, hey, so want to know this, and that, and obviously that's not, you can't. But these women had disclosed so much of themselves to me as well, Brandy being a felon, Karima being a felon, and also my manager being an ex-felon, all of them being ex-felons, but them telling me about their crimes, all of this. And the reason why Karima, I know Brandy thought it was Karima, and honestly, in the end, I thought it was Karima because she told me that she went to jail for that, for, counterfeit scams and money and shit like that. And I'm just like, you know what? If that's the way things are going to be going down here, especially if my manager is going to be orchestrating this with my coworkers and doing all of this, going behind my back, talking about me, making up lies, I don't need to be there. So that just, when one door closes, another one fucking opens. So I'm not even tripping, y'all, but I'm gonna end this blunt, go inside. I've made this video long enough. Thank you guys for watching and fucking hearing this story. If you guys can take anything from this, like I said, like, do not put so much faith in your co-workers and so much trust in them, and because they are not who they seem to be, and I had to learn that the hard way. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys got lit with me, and I hope this wasn't too random. But yeah, you guys have a great night, evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you guys are watching this. I'm about to go inside and probably watch Dance Moms or Little Women of Atlanta. But thank you guys for watching, and stay lit.